Caitlin Clark stepped into the starting five for Team USA on Sunday, and the internet absolutely lost its mind. In a dominant 101-46 blowout over New Zealand at the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying tournament, Clark did what she always does when given the opportunity. She showed out. 14 points on 6 of 11 shooting, a perfect 4 of 4 from the free throw line, 2 of 7 from 3, and 6 assists in just 23 minutes of action. Clean, efficient, and impactful. Exactly the kind of performance that makes it very difficult to argue against her being on the floor. But before we even get into what happened on the court, let's talk about what happened before tip-off, because that's where the Real story begins. Team USA posted their starting lineup graphic on social media. Standard stuff, right? They do it every game. Except this time, Caitlin Clark's name was in that starting five. And suddenly, a routine pregame post turned into one of the most debated moments of the entire tournament. Thousands of comments flooding in within minutes. Fans going back and forth. People tagging their friends. Arguments breaking out in real time. All because one player's name appeared in a graphic. That tells you everything you need to know about where Caitlin Clark stands in women's basketball right now. Love her or hate her, nobody generates conversation quite like she does. Now let's set the scene properly, because context matters here. This is the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying tournament. Team USA is on a mission to punch their ticket to the World Cup in Berlin. Interim head coach Nate Tibbetts has been at the helm, and throughout this tournament, he's been doing something very deliberate, rotating his lineups, testing different combinations, seeing which players complement each other best under competitive pressure. It's not random. It's calculated. Every starting five has been a chess move, not a statement. So when Clark got the nod to start against New Zealand, it wasn't necessarily Tibbetts planting a flag and declaring her the future of this program. It was another experiment, another opportunity to gather data, another chance to see how the pieces fit together. Keep that in mind, because a lot of the online debate completely missed that point. Clark's starting lineup featured her alongside Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, Monique Billings, and De'Erica Hamby. Think about that group for a second. You've got Gray, one of the most composed and cerebral point guards in the game. Plum, a bucket getter who can create her own shot from anywhere on the floor. Billings and Hamby bringing size, physicality, and defensive presence in the front court. And then Clark, the playmaker, the floor spacer, the pass-first guard who can also erupt for big scoring nights when the moment calls for it. On paper, it's a fascinating combination. And on Sunday against New Zealand, it worked. Team USA didn't just win, they demolished. A 55-point margin of victory is a statement. It says this group is locked in, executing, and playing with a level of intensity that should make the rest of the field nervous. Clark's contribution wasn't the loudest on the stat sheet, but it was arguably the most well-rounded. 6 assists to lead the team. That means she was the engine of the offense for stretches, making reads, pushing the pace, finding cutters, and keeping the ball moving. Her court vision has always been one of her most underrated qualities, and on Sunday, it was on full display. When you pair that with her ability to knock down mid-range jumpers and draw fouls, 4 free throws, all made, you get a player who is genuinely impacting the game in multiple ways, even on a night when her three-point shot wasn't fully cooperating. 2 of 7 from 3 is fine in a game you win by 55. Nobody is losing sleep over that. What matters is that she contributed, she was efficient with the ball, she didn't force anything, and she helped Team USA look like exactly what they're supposed to be, the best women's basketball nation on the planet. Now here's where things get interesting. Because as great as Sunday was on the court, the real chaos was happening in the comments section. The moment that starting lineup graphic went live, the response was immediate and polarizing. On one side, you had Clark's supporters, and they were fired up. They pointed to her numbers throughout the tournament, noting that she had been among the leaders in combined points and assists. They argued that the starting spot wasn't a gift, it was earned. They pushed back hard against anyone suggesting it was anything other than a basketball decision. On the other side, you had people who were visibly frustrated. Not necessarily frustrated with Clark herself, but frustrated with the culture that surrounds her. One commenter put it bluntly, "The crying y'all did finally worked. Clark is starting." That comment got thousands of likes. Think about what that says. A significant portion of the audience watching this tournament genuinely believes that Caitlin Clark received her starting spot not because of merit, but because of fan pressure. That her supporters were loud enough and persistent enough that Team USA eventually caved. Now, is that true? That's the question worth asking honestly. Here's what we know. Clark fans have been vocal throughout this tournament. Extremely vocal. Social media has been flooded with commentary about her role, her playing time, her lineups. Every game where she came off the bench, there were posts. Every minute she didn't play, there were complaints. The pressure has been real, and it has been constant. But here's what else we know. Nate Tibbetts has been rotating his entire roster. Multiple players have received starting opportunities. This isn't a team that locks in one lineup and rides it for the whole tournament. The philosophy has been deliberate variation. So when Clark gets a start, it fits perfectly within the pattern that Tibbetts has already established. The question of whether fan pressure influenced the decision is one that nobody outside that coaching staff can answer definitively. And honestly, even if there was some awareness of the conversation happening online, that doesn't automatically mean the decision was wrong. Clark's performances have backed up the argument for more prominent usage. Numbers don't have feelings. They just exist. But the debate reveals something much deeper than one starting lineup. It reveals the unique and complicated position that Caitlin Clark occupies in women's basketball. She is simultaneously one of the most celebrated and most scrutinized athletes in the sport. Every decision involving her gets magnified. Every stat line gets analyzed from multiple angles. Every lineup choice becomes a referendum on something larger. Some people see that as a burden. Others see it as a gift. The reality is probably somewhere in between. What's undeniable is that the attention she brings, even when it's contentious, even when it turns comment sections into war zones, ultimately benefits women's basketball. More eyes on the sport, more conversations happening, more people tuning in to watch games that might have otherwise flown under the radar. There is real value in that, even if the discourse around it can get ugly. Now let's fast forward to what matters next. Team USA goes to 4-0 heading into their final tournament game on Tuesday against Spain. That matchup is significant for a couple of reasons. Spain is not New Zealand. This will be a competitive game against a well-organized, experienced European program that plays with structure and discipline. It's the kind of test that will reveal a lot more about where this Team USA squad actually stands than a 55-point win over an outmatched opponent. And the big question hanging over Tuesday's game: does Caitlin Clark stay in the starting lineup? Tibbetts hasn't committed to anything. Given his approach throughout this tournament, there's every chance the lineup shifts again. Maybe Clark starts. Maybe she comes off the bench. Maybe the combination against Spain looks completely different from what we saw against New Zealand. That's the nature of this process. But what Sunday did accomplish, regardless of what happens Tuesday, is that it gave Clark's supporters something concrete to point to: a starting performance. Real minutes in a real game with real stakes. A stat line that holds up. And a team that went out and executed a dominant victory with her in that role. Whether she holds that spot or not, the conversation has already shifted. It's no longer about whether Clark belongs on this team. That was never seriously in doubt. It's about what role suits her best and how Tibbetts deploys her most effectively when the stakes get even higher in Berlin. Because that's the ultimate goal. Not winning Twitter arguments. Not satisfying fan bases. Not generating viral moments. The goal is a World Cup. The goal is gold. And every lineup decision between now and Berlin should be judged through that lens, and that lens only. Clark knows that. The coaching staff knows that. And if the people in the comment sections took a step back from the noise, they'd know it too. The bottom line is this: Caitlin Clark had a good game on Sunday. Team USA had a great game on Sunday. And women's basketball, even in its most chaotic, debate-filled, comment section-destroying moments, continues to grow, continues to command attention, continues to prove that it deserves every spotlight it gets. Tuesday against Spain will tell us more. And wherever Clark lines up, starter or reserve, you can bet the whole world will be watching.